everyone, today we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about learning Chinese, how I learned Chinese. I'm going to show you a book that I used, show an old video, and do some other things. We'll talk about how I learned this crazy language here in China. When I first moved to China, it was 2011, and smartphones were just then kind of becoming the thing to have, and a lot of people were starting to get smartphones, but at the time there weren't all the apps that people had to study. Like, there are so many apps and so many tools that people can use now to study, but I didn't have those at the time. And also, to cap that off, I was at a university where there were no other foreign students. I was the one and only foreign student. So I didn't have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of or to swap notes with or things like that. It was just me. My classes were one-on-one, and I remember in particular my Chinese writing teacher didn't really speak any English, which was super awkward, and it was a really interesting time. And when I first started studying, I was in this little classroom with few seats, and it was just me and my teacher one-on-one. And I had a few different classes. I had a comprehensive Chinese class, I had a listening class, I had a culture class, and I had a writing class. So I had 4 Chinese classes all going on at the same time, one-on-one. It was rough, you know. Some of the textbooks were pretty foreigner friendly. They got them from like Beijing University Press, and they were made for foreigners learning Chinese at my level, which was pretty much non-existent. Like, I could read a few things, like I could maybe recognize like 100 characters, and I could read pinyin, but that was about it. I couldn't really have conversations or any of that. And those classes were all good in one way or another. My listening class was great. I learned how to focus on tones. My writing class, I learned kind of the structure of Chinese characters. My comprehensive class was great for my speaking. And, well, they're all good, but none of them were as good as my Chinese culture class, and I'll tell you why. It wasn't because I learned about Chinese culture. I mean, that was all fine and everything, but it was because that class kicked my ass. That class kicked my ass with this book right here that I've still got, actually. It's 中国文化面面观, so the ins and outs of Chinese culture. And this book, this is a book for Chinese learners. Yes, it's not, it is a book for Chinese learners, yes. But the thing is, it's not a book you give to someone who's just starting out. My Chinese culture teacher just said, hey, here's this book, study it. You know, I was like, okay. So I opened the book, and let me just show you. And it's just like this. It's all Chinese. It's all Chinese right there. There's no pinyin to help out. There's no tone marks. There's none of that. None of that to help you out. So imagine being a foreigner who's just come to China, and your teacher gives you a book and says, okay, study this. We'll do this on Monday. You know, and it's Friday. So I've got a couple of days to read over through this. Now, there are a few vocabulary words here, but you know, if you're just starting off studying Chinese, it's not helping much, because you're not going to understand really any of that. So like this one right here, this text is about ancient novels, okay? It's about ancient novels, okay? Which obviously I'm not going to know any of that. And you know, some of the ones before it are on topics that I really don't know much about now. This is about discussing ancient poetry. You know, I can't even do that now. I don't know much about ancient poetry now. And this is 6 years on. When I first started studying Chinese, my book was covered in marks. It was covered in, you know, me trying to cheat the system. I wrote in pinyin, or I wrote in tone marks. I would write in English or something, because, you know, I had to do one of these chapters every couple of days. And I really had my work cut out for me. By nature of this, I learned Chinese very, very quickly. I learned Chinese so fast because of this. I had to learn, you know, about Chinese food. I had to learn about Chinese marriage customs. I learned about the Chinese minorities. I learned about so many different aspects of Chinese culture, which was great. But I also was able to learn so many vocabulary words like that. I was probably learning between 30 to 60 new words a day just with this book, not to mention my other books. It was a super long and drawn out process because I didn't have a smartphone, so I looked it up in a paper dictionary. I looked it up by the radicals and by the number of strokes, which people don't even know how to do anymore. and I looked every single word up in a physical dictionary, and that took so long. So just for this class, I studied 6 days a week, probably in total with all my study, I studied at least 10 hours a day. At the very least, I studied 10 hours a day because I was so over my head with everything. Because, you know, I was the first and only foreign student at that university. The university didn't really know how to deal with foreigners. So they just said, here's some stuff. And it was ridiculous. It was a pretty hardcore semester, and at the same time, I'm trying to write my senior thesis, which, you know, required me to go to the libraries and read history books in Chinese and translate and do all this other stuff. Had to do interviews, and it was a lot. It was a lot of work. You know? So all of that, I studied at least 10 hours a day, probably more actually. I did that for about 4 months. 4 months, that was all that I did, was study. And then after about those 4 months, I was able to kind of have a social life and able to go out and do stuff and explore and all that. And it was just nuts, man. It was nuts. That's how I learned Chinese. I basically just went crazy for a few months and and learned. It's great now because I can actually look at this book. I can look at this book and go, you know, all these years later, I actually understand this. Like, you know, I could just pick it up and casually read it. Even the chapters that I never looked at when I was in school, like I can just pick this up and look at it. Okay, 汉字的书法艺术. So this one's about calligraphy. I can just pick it up and I can read it, which is wonderful. This one's about Guidry, Beijing Opera. It's fantastic. Xiangsheng, which is a thing that they do in Tianjin. Crosstalk. Yeah, so it's fantastic. I can visibly see my progress. But you guys don't have to learn the way I learned. If you want to, that's fine, no problem. But I'm going to be releasing a few videos over the next, over this month, talking about studying Chinese and talking about apps you can use and things like that. So be on the lookout. Well, I think that's about it. So thank you all very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to make a video every day this month. We'll see. We'll see. If you've got any advice for learning Chinese, please leave a comment. Thanks a lot. See you all next time.